Senator Cory Booker is here.
Yes.
I'm so grateful
Welcome.
to be sitting with you both.
Thank you, thank
Especially
you.
a little Cory connection.
A little
here.
Cory,
Little
yes.
Jersey connection.
Absolutely.
here.
There's a lot of connections.
This is a triangle.
This is I want to stay here.
Okay.
Before we get started, can we please convince this other Cory why Jersey is everything?
Where do you live in New York?
'Cause she's
I live in
really-
Brooklyn.
She
You
comes
live
for
in Brooklyn?
Jersey.
I live 4 blocks from where Biggie Smalls grew up.
Listen, I respect
See, this is
Brooklyn.
the army.
Okay.
But they snuck into my city and they stole my Nets. Yeah, that's
That's
right. They were
true.
the
That's-
Newark
that's
Nets,
valid.
And they
That's valid.
snuck in at night and took my team. And
Wow.
so I feel some kind of way.
See?
Even though the
As you
best,
should.
my favorite vegan comfort food diner. Do you guys, are you guys both vegans?
Not at all.
No.
Not even
I
close?
I'm leaving here going to Cochon,
Oh,
where they
really?
only serve pig.
Well, go to Champ's Diner in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And I'm telling you right now, you won't even miss it. And the thing is, there's a great guy, if you ever have time for a TED Talk, Ron Finley. He's called the Guerrilla Gardener from South Central LA and does all this expanding access to fresh fruits and vegetables. And he goes, in LA, we got drive-bys and drive-throughs. And the drive-throughs are killing more people than drive-bys. And because we, especially in the African-American community, lower life expectancy, higher rates of heart disease, diabetes, and a lot of things is because of the food we eat. So we've got to all try to make sure we're living our best lives, which is often at the end of your fork, what you put in there.
That's much
You know what? Okay, I'm not going to go to Cochon.
Now we feel
Now
bad.
I'm going to
I
find a
just canceled
salad
my
in New
dinner.
Orleans.
I'm not telling you what to eat. I never tell people to eat. It's a very
But
personal
thank
thing,
you.
what you put in your body. But I'm just saying, live your best life on your plate
Absolutely.
as well as, as well as in other ways.
And speaking of you live your best life, you're from New Jersey, and we'll just have to leave it at that. You know, you rep Jersey hard, and Cory will have to.
You cut me, I bleed Jersey.
Same.
Yes.
And these New Yorkers don't understand
They
that's important.
disrespect.
Because Charlie
That's terrible.
is my co-host, she has given me some iconic
Can I-
people. I'm
Can
gonna
I
read
tell you what I tell her about Jersey? Who do we have to thank for Jersey? Whitney Houston?
Michael B. Jordan,
Michael B. Jordan?
Yes.
Lauren Hill.
Michael B. Jordan's from Newark. Lauren Hill, Newark.
She went to my high school.
Brick City, you're right. Let me give you even better than that because we
Okay.
could go through all of these, like
Why
the
else is New
Count,
Jersey
Count
great?
Basie, the Queen, Queen Latifah, the chairman of the board, the boss. We give our people real names, but I want to go even deeper than that.
Okay.
Okay, we have united this country. The engine that first across the country, transcontinental route, New Jersey. Let's go deeper than that. Submarine, New Jersey. AM, FM, New Jersey. The first drive-in movie theater, New Jersey. Light bulb
I'm never gonna stop
invented
talking
in
about
New Jersey. When you go out at night on the town, you wear some patent leather, New Jersey. Yes. Electric guitar, New Jersey. I could go on and
You
on and
can
on.
go, okay, I
And
get it.
including my favorite candy for a long time before I became a vegan was M&M's, invented in Newark.
Now
Yes.
that I did not know.
Yes.
Patent leather and M&M.
Yes.
Okay,
What else do
I'm a
we-
convert. I'm a convert.
Yeah, all
I'll
right.
accept
First
New Jersey
brewery
now.
in the United States of America was in Hoboken, New Jersey. So we are the beer origin of beer in this country.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
It runs
I
deep.
just want to
Thank
put it.
you
I just
for-
want to make
yeah,
it real.
no,
a little
I
bit.
get it now. I
Okay.
definitely get it now.
Well, obviously we know the legacy you're leaving in New Jersey,
Yes.
clearly. But what do you want your overall legacy to be as a man, particularly a black man?
I want to say my overall legacy as a person because, look, I know that we have so much more power. The most common way people give up their power is not realizing they have it in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think our history is a testimony to what happens when people manifest their power by joining with other people. The best of who we are, in fact, I always tell people the gardens of our democracy have never been free of hatred, bigotry, demagoguery. But what defines this country is how we've always responded to that. And so my hope is that in this period where a lot of people are fearing that the forces tearing us apart are stronger than the forces holding us together, that I can be a part of that generation of Americans that calls us to come together and manifest the power that is made apparent when people come together and work together and achieve justice together. And so I just worry right now we're in a point in our country where the tribalism, the hatred is too high. And I'd like for my legacy to be one of those folks that helps healing, reconciling, and helps to bring people together for the cause of justice.
Community.
Yes.
Speaking of that, though, there are a lot of, what do you say to black women who are feeling a bit jaded about politics right now? Like you said, the tribalism on the cusp of the 2020 election. I mean, what do you have to say to us? Really?
Well, first of all, black women are the highest percent voters. They go out and vote at rates that we don't see in any other demographic. And my hope is, as a guy who spent his entire career working in black and brown communities, I live in fact, I'm the only person in this presidential race that lives in a black and brown city. And I live in a neighborhood below the poverty line, and I've lived there since I came out of law school and started as a tenants' rights organizer. And as a guy who used to watch national politicians rise and all of this, I just want our communities to be a lot more demanding and holding people accountable, because Democrats can't get elected without African American communities. And often we see people who get elected that don't put our agendas, the agenda of those places that are looked over and cast aside. And so I hope that in this as a presidential candidate, I like the question most of, like, not what you're going to do for me, because people are really good at telling you what they're going to do and what you want to hear. Say, okay, you've been in politics for 5, 10, 20 years. What have you done already for communities like ours? And that's something that I hope that people ask those questions. And there's not an issue in this campaign, as a guy who was a former mayor, that we in our city haven't, from access to health care to all the way to dealing with gun violence. I have a record for struggling with these issues, and often doing things that created national models for change.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Cory.
a great answer. What do you feel, so you were talking about your choice, you were living in Newark. You still live in Newark?
Yeah, I do.
Your choice to live in, I hate to say underdeveloped area, because Newark is not underdeveloped, but I feel like, what do we say, urban area? Like, how do you feel like that, your choice to live there inspires others and really brings attention to urban development?
Well, look, I feel like my parents, my mom raised me, this incredible black woman who, both my mom and my dad, who grew up in a very different America than I did. My mom was doing sit-ins and civil rights activists, and then they raised my brother and I to understand that the privileges we had were bought and paid for by the sacrifice and struggle of others, and they wanted me to be a part of the struggle. And so when I finished law school, I said, let me find a place, knowing that my rights were fought for, let me go and be a lawyer to fight for the rights of people who are often looked down upon, but where people don't see their worth and see their dignity. And I have to say, I moved into the neighborhood I live in now, and it was like God just said, you don't even know. You think you know, but you don't know how special this community is. And I met a woman who, I always say I got my BA from Stanford, but my PhD on the streets of Newark. I met a woman named Miss Virginia Jones, who I just mentioned here at this incredible 25th Essence Fest. And I basically, she told me, she goes, look around this neighborhood and tell me what you see. And I was like, okay, I see the crack house, I just described the projects. And she goes, well, you can never help me. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, the world you see outside of you is a reflection of what you have inside of you. If you only see problems and darkness and despair, that's all there's ever going to be. But if you're stubborn, and every time you open your eyes, you see love, you see the face of God, beauty, then you can help me. And it was like a transformative 5 years of my life working with this woman, because she knew the worth of her neighborhood. She never mistaked wealth with worth. She knew the potential. And so if I walked you back then in the 90s and now walked you in 2019, you would see black female-owned businesses in my community thriving. You'd see new parks, new high schools, you'd see new housing. And I always tell people, they're like, oh, you should be proud of what you did as mayor. I go, no, no, no. We're seeing this now because people like Ms. Jones saw this then. They never gave up on their community. They had a defiant love. And so the reason why I still live there, if you want to boil it down to one thing, I didn't think I'd get into politics. It was Ms. Jones that made me, and a whole bunch of tenant leaders told me to run for city council. And the one promise she ever extracted from me was, don't forget the people that got you into politics, and don't leave this community. And so I told her I wouldn't. I would move into the project. So I lived in high-rise projects for about 8 years, and have stayed a part of this community. And people think, oh, it must be hard. You know, we have shootings in our community still. We haven't solved all the problems. But I've never lived in a neighborhood where you see the kind of grit, defiant love, and sense of community that I've experienced, this kind of community that I've experienced in Newark. And the only 8 years I might leave is for 8 years in the White House.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right now.
Understood.
So you spoke about your mom, you spoke about Ms. Jones. Which other black women have been influential in your life?
Well, I mean, my icon, her statue is sitting on every desk I've had, from City Hall to the Capitol of the United States, is Harriet Tubman. She's like my model. Because she, first of all, she would have died, we wouldn't have known who she was if somebody at the end of her life didn't interview her and write a book about her.
So I see, if you win, you're going to pass that bill, right? We're going to see you on the $20 bill?
God, yes. But
Please.
you know what?
First order of business.
Maybe not, but still important to me. But you know, she was this woman that understood that she did so much sacrifice for her freedom, but then didn't stop, kept going back down south 5, 10, 15 plus times. And I just like that model of folks who are humble leadership. They never mistake celebrity with significance, never mistake popularity with purpose. And so I feel very blessed that I've had a circle of great black women my whole life, aunts, uncles, You know, I was shouting out there. I had AKAs, Deltas, I had Link Sisters, I had community leaders. If you live in communities like mine, you know that it's Black women that have held communities together and that have been at the center of every major, from the workers' rights movement to the civil rights movement or abolition movement to ending Jim Crow. You've had Black women at the center of every movement for social justice, and I feel like I've been lucky to have circles of Black women that help raise me and rear me and send me off into the world. And even when I'm out there, who adopted me like Miss Jones and kept me on the right path.
Now, we know how important it is. You speak a lot about community, which is so important for our community to band together and make change. Give a little advice to people about how we can work together within our communities to not be frustrated, but and actually to work together with the local politicians to get what we want done. Because I think that frustration right now is that, you know, we're not getting it done. You know what I mean? And we have these frustrations, but we don't know how to work together because we don't all agree. So what advice do you have?
Well, I think that we shouldn't all agree.
Right.
I mean, you're married to a great man, and you two don't always agree on things. No,
quite a lot.
Quite a lot. And so, I mean, that's the challenge in life, is to be bridge builders.
Yeah.
Even when there's a chasm between you and somebody, still to find that common ground. And what I've seen in my community is when people create a Facebook page to organize around an issue, and suddenly they are issue focused, because a lot of the challenges we face are because people are single issue focused. There are people who get up every single day with the determination to make it illegal for someone to have an abortion, even if they've been raped or a victim of incest. There are people who get up every single day and are fighting not to let one single gun safety law change. We've got to start finding the issues that drive us, organizing around those issues and demanding that they change. Because, you know, think something very simple, like for Medicaid, which is where it's close to a majority of babies are born through Medicaid, but they cut off postpartum access to health care early. They don't let it go for a year. It's one of the reasons why we have such high rates of maternal mortality in our country. And amazingly, Black women, it's almost 3-4 times higher than white women. And so I introduced a bill to just address these issues, to allow low-income women to have access to doulas, to have extended time on Medicaid, all things that we know would drop the rates of complications. But yet we've got to create political will around those things, and folks that are going to use their political power to demand simple policy changes that make big differences in our community. Let me give you another example. These activists came to me and said, sickle cell, this is an issue for our community. That is a disease that affects so many more people than other diseases that affect a fraction but get a lot more funding. And they were like, well, here's something that affects African American communities more. Can you help us champion for this? And I'm like, you know what? Absolutely, I didn't know this. And they came to their elected official people on this issue, and we've actually passed legislation now to help to correct these disparities of investment. So I've seen the system work because of grassroots activists who find issues that are important to them and organize around those issues. Remember, change has never, ever come from Washington. It always comes to Washington. It wasn't like Strom Thurmond woke up one day and said, I've seen the light, those Negro people should have some rights. No, it was African-American organizers, Black, white, Jewish, rainbow coalitions that brought these things to do. So we need to be those coalition builders, those bridge builders that unite people in common cause on common issues.
Well, thank you for being a bridge builder.
Thank you all for being a bridge builder.
Thank you for giving us the time.
Can I tell you something?
Jersey
Well,
so hard.
you know, Black radio has and podcast is the modern day manifestation of it. But we were joking before about DC. You're from the DC area. I was born in DC. My parents met there. My father coming from North Carolina Central. My mom came from Fisk, met and married there. My dad had the luck and the fortune to marry my mom. My mom had the charity and mercy to marry my dad. but you know, Black radio during that time was not just about entertainment. It fueled the movement. It kept people informed and engaged, challenged people. And these DJs were like nationally known. Some of them had those kind of profiles. And so you all are in that tradition, and having conversations like this, it doesn't just inform people of politics. I think it's actually your voices help to sustain people and motivate people and entertain people and elevate people. And that's what we all should be about for each other.
We received that.
We received
Thank you
all
so
of that.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the compliment.
No, thank you
for
very,
coming
very
by.
much. It's so good to be here.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.